Michael, pronounce your last name for me. I want to get it right.
My last name is Chojnacki.
Chojnacki. Okay.
Yeah.
Chojnacki. I can do that. Bobby's name is Schindler. It's difficult, but it you figure it out eventually. But Michael, will you do us a favor? Tell us about yourself and how did you get into Baseline Vision? Is it yours? Did you invent it? Give us everything you got on you and Baseline Vision, the origin story. Give us everything you got.
Yeah, sure. Well, I didn't invent it alone, of course. Well, we're never alone in those kind of things. I'm originally from Belgium. I was born and raised there, and I've playing tennis all my life since I'm 4 or 5 years old. I've always been a tennis freak, been big Sampras fan for most of my life, and then at some point, Federer kind of took over, which is, I think it's common. I think it's a common, I mean, there is some similarities in the style, I guess.
It worked for me, Michael. It worked for me. I was the same way.
There you go. There you go. So I've been playing, never close to be pro, something like that, but I was decent. When I was younger, I was pretty, okay in terms of, the competitive level. Now I'm just old and bored, but I still love tennis. And I'm originally an aerospace engineer. So that was my kind of first career. Studied aerospace engineering in a university here in the north of Israel. And I went on and worked for about 12 years, I think, in a big aerospace company here in Israel, doing completely different stuff than tennis. I was flight testing airplanes for a while, and then I went on and directed big projects in the robotics area, autonomous tractors, autonomous vehicles, basically. Well, at some point, I guess I got a little bit more time to look at what makes.
No worries. Sorry about that.
No worries. And at some point, I guess I got a little bit more time to think about what I would love to do and in my life, and the aerodynamic knowledge, the project management knowledge, and crazy, I guess the passion for tennis came kind of all together. I dealt with computer vision a lot also in my previous work and in my thesis, so I had a bit of knowledge with that. So kind of the tech knowledge, management knowledge, and tennis knowledge in the meantime kind of all kind of combined, and I started playing around with the idea of creating some we call it scalable products for enhancing engagement and fun and fairness for tennis. And then I met, one occasion I met with Yaniv, which is my co-founder, about 4 or 5 years ago. And he's an expert in computer vision and machine learning. And that was kind of the piece that was missing in the whole puzzle. And then we just said, screw it, let's do it. And we both kind of quit whatever we were doing and start working on the first version of the hardware. That was in 2019-20.
So the first version of the hardware. So tell me about what it is. What does it accomplish? If I plug this thing in, we'll skip all the magic and how it all works on underneath the covers. But what does it do?
So let's start from the end. So that's just to have for you to have a visual. I don't know if everybody's going to see that, but that's how it looks. So basically, it's a small camera. In terms of the hardware that's in there, it's pretty simple to understand. Those are 2 cameras and one for quite powerful computer, which basically processes everything in real time. So we have 2 high-speed, high-quality, high-resolution cameras, one for each side of the cord. You install that camera device on the net post, which is an attaching arm. You click that camera on it, so you have one camera looking at the left side of the cord, one camera at the right side of the cord, and we're tracking the player, tracking the ball, tracking the court at 60 frames per second, and the computer basically processes those frames to provide initially data, right? So that's the product in terms of the how it's made. Now, what does it do? It brings four main capabilities. And with those capabilities, we're going to start building products for a different part of the market. So one capability is everything related to performance tracking. So it's tracking your speed, tracking your net clearance, tracking the ball placement, player position. It's tracking the spin as well. We can talk about it in a second if you want. Where the ball is either in or out as a data interest. So that's for performance tracking. Second thing it does is line calling. One of the toughest challenge in tennis, challenge is just the right word for it. In tennis is to know whether the ball is in or out. So we're doing that in three different ways. There is a whole part of the product that's dedicated to that. We can speak about it as well if you want. That's the second capability. Third one is recording everything that's happening on the court. So we have video feedback. We kind of aim that video feedback for specific use cases. But it's recording everything, and you can access your video on the court and after. And also it gives instant feedback, whether it's data, surf speed, for example, and all those kind of things, but also in terms of what's happening on the court. So events are recorded, and the device itself is reacting to different events on the court. The way it is doing that is either where you through your smartphone, so you have a screen there and it shows you whatever happens in real time. And the second way of interacting in real time is when you have LED lights on both sides that can light up and with different patterns and with different color patterns, and you have two powerful speakers that are basically speaking with you, right? And we use that for different stuff. One of the main thing we do with that instant feedback is gamification, for example. So those are the four main capabilities. One missing piece on the product is that you have an app that you can download from Google Play, App Store. It works on both, and then you connect that app through a barcode on the back of the camera. Your phone will connect directly to the camera through a Wi-Fi signal. So it's a local Wi-Fi signal. You don't need Wi-Fi on the court. And your phone will talk with the camera, and then all the data and the streams are going to go to your phone or tablet.
So I'm going to do it backwards again. I'm going to start with the last thing you said. My phone is going to talk to the camera. Bobby, I love it. The fact that that's a normal thing to say in 2024.
Absolutely. It's gonna tell him, send me data, don't send me data, show me video, show me the challenge, and then they're gonna start having a discussion, between them, and then you'll see whatever the phone asks for.
My phone is going to have a conversation with my camera. I love it. So of the four things, Bobby, I'm going to leave it to you as to where you want to start, because I'm sure we've got a million questions for Michael here. So performance of player, it does. So it's going to see how fast I'm going. Is it going to look at my strokes? It's going to see what I'm doing. Line calls, it's going to give me a little red LED or something and say out and give me that kind of thing, right? And then it's going to record for playback so I can watch the tape, so to speak, afterwards, and then give me instant feedback. Bobby, where are we starting with all this?
I don't even, like you said, it's Pandora's box. Obviously, I think the one most people would be immediately interested in is line calls. And the effect it could have not only on juniors, but also collegiate. Atlanta we're the largest recreational tennis league in the country. And as I like to say on the court, the line is good every other day except Thursday, because that's the day the ladies play. So, and you see a lot of cheating on Thursdays. And we don't think it's malicious. We just think it's age. But, you know, this is revolutionary, you know, to be able to hook this up. And so what are your accuracy rates? What is your beta test, your testing told you as far as, I mean, I know nothing's perfect, but it's probably better than the human eye.
Right. So when you talk about accuracy, I mean, that's also a kind of a long discussion. You can talk, you know, hours about. But basically, when you're talking about accuracy, you have four components that impact that accuracy, and then it really depends on combination of those four elements. One is your lighting. If your lighting is good or bad, you're gonna have a better or worse, you know, accuracy. Second is the speed of the shot, because, you know, shot is faster, you're gonna have a harder time to have enough data to be more precise. The distance from the camera. So you remember we have only one camera on one side of the net. That's on purpose. We don't want to load the court with hardware. It needs to be really simple to install, and that's one trade-off of it. So there is only one camera there. I mean, two cameras with one device. So the distance to camera and the background. So we have a noisy background or a very high contrast or low contrast background. It can impact that. So those four components are always a bit different in terms of where you play. The bottom line that we always say to everyone that asks us that question is that you cannot never get to one number. So what we said is that 95% of the time we're at least twice better than the human eye.
Oh, I like that statement.
Yeah.
I like that a lot. So, because that's what Bobby and I talk about when we say, okay, well, even if we were to pick baseline vision and we're playing a tennis match and we said, okay, we're going to use this for line calls, the agreement really is that we're just not going to argue about it, because even if it's just as good as us making our own line calls, at least we're just going with the thing to tell us, because it's going to be the same on your end as it is on my end. It's going to be just as good. It's going to be consistent. And it just means I'm not going to make any mistakes and you're going to be mad at me, or more often than not. I think personally, as Bobby says, it's age, but it's also, I think we call the ball in when it's out more often on accident as tennis players. I think we miss line calls to the benefit of our opponent more than we intentionally hook somebody. Do you agree? Would you agree with that, being in the actual industry there?
I mean, my intuition is that you're right. I think the truth is that nobody knows. I'll tell you more than that. Even I think nobody really knows, even at pro level, if you ask me. Yeah. So even when you get your accuracy better because you have 20 cameras on the court and whatnot, at the end of the day, you want your system or whatever line calling aid you have to be good enough to be trusted, and scientifically proven to be better than you in the vast majority of the cases. And that's usually enough, because the rest of for the whole rest of the cases, it does a lot more than that. It basically what we've been seeing in tournament, for example, for young players, not especially ages, but for young players, is that the only fact that there is a third eye on the court basically reduces the level of arguments already, even before you even challenge one call. And that, the federations know that. So the rest of the work is mainly to be accurate enough to be trusted widely, and usually that it makes a lot of impact already.
So in that case, why didn't you just name it Third Eye? That just sounds
it's a good idea. Maybe we should rebrand.
Oh, you're gonna rebrand, which is funny because that's one of my questions.
But only in Atlanta, though.
Exactly. You put the camera at the net, yet you call it baseline vision. Why?
I mean, baseline came out because I think the main reason, I can invent all kinds of stuff, but I think the main reason is that it sounds good. But I think if you one layer down there, it's like we wanted that to be kind of the standard as an experience, right? Not especially as a product, but as an experience, we wanted that to be kind of the standard on every court. That's the way we see tennis would be played in a few years from now. Tennis cannot be, if you want to talk with new generation, if you want to bring a better experience and more fun and engaging experience on the court, tennis cannot stay a piece of asphalt and a net forever, right? You need to bring more experience, you need to bring something more, and that kind of experience needs to be kind of the baseline, kind of the standard.
So it's not a direct
Right?
reference to a baseline versus a sideline. This is a
No,
baseline, meaning almost
exactly.
a minimum expectation of accuracy, or in this case, assistance in having a good experience.
Yeah, more that, yeah, like a standard experience that you want to bring.
Nice. Okay.
Right.
Because I've been wondering about that for months, Michael. Like baseline vision, but they stick the thing at the net. I don't get it.
It's I mean, it's good. You know, there's no bad publicity, right? Even if you can't remember, if you talk about the name, it's already good for us.
And sometimes those origin stories are fun. I mean, we've got our story about our logo too. So we talk about the things, we say, hey, how did that come to be? Because sometimes it's fun to look under the covers a little bit and say, where did you get there?
So what's the story, if you have a minute?
For the logo?
Yeah.
Oh, come on. We usually do our best not to talk about ourselves, but let's just say
Come on, please. 1 minute.
an extremely expensive logo. We'll just put it that way. We
Really?
love
Okay.
it, but it costs a lot more than it should.
Okay.
So Bobby, we talked about line calls. That's if there's a baseline of, at least we're going to have something that's better than we are at calling the lines, even all the way across the court. Let's agree to use the system. Where do you want to go next with Michael?
Well, I think it's the technology, just integration, becoming more and more into the sport. I mean, that's the fun of the thing that we do that's fun, is speak to the innovators that are trying to bring more and more technology to tennis. And obviously, where I see this, do you have an analytic component built into it? When when the phone is talking to the baseline, your apparatus, is that something that is available now? Is it coming? Because I know analytics is becoming a much bigger business, and this would be a great way to, I mean, the match is recorded, so you could send it to somebody right away and have the analytics brought. You're taking a step out of the process, which makes the process easier, which now more people can maybe search out, how do we get our match analytically looked at?
Well, absolutely. I mean, even if we spend the last 5-10 minutes talking about line calling, and we know is more to talk about, the majority of the usage today of our devices is for coaching, and then that's where we start talking about what to do with that data. So there is absolutely, we record a vast amount of data. We don't show half of the data we record because it's hard to grasp. And so the main thing you start with is your speed, your net clearance, your ball position, your player placement, your percentage in, out, and net, and that's for pure data that you're gathering. Now, I think with the art of doing something fun, engaging, and useful at the end of the day is to pack that data into something that people can use, right? Throwing just a bunch of numbers at the face of people is great because it's right, but it's not valuable on the long term. So the device does all the calculations and knows everything. Now we have different products when we pack that data in different ways. In coaching, for example, and that kind of relates that interactive part with the data, the thing that works the best for us in trainings for now is our kind of gamified drills. And in gamified drills, we combine the ability to get data with the ability to give instant feedback and have this kind of interactivity with the LED lights and the speakers, and then it gives you afterwards something to learn easily from that data, because at the end of the day, that's what you want. So I'll give you an example. One of the games we have out there it's called Deeper, right? Just by the name, you can imagine already what the game is about. You have 5 minutes. You're playing baseline to baseline, not the device, the real baseline. You can play by group or singles, and you play 5 minutes, and your goal is to play the deepest you can and the more consistent you can. The deepest you hit the board, the more points you get. And if you don't miss 20 shots, you get times 2 bonus. You don't miss 30 shots times 3. You don't miss 40 shots times 4. And the device will talk to you, literally talk to you, and blink, and light will blink during those 5 minutes. It will tell you your score, and will count down the time. It will make a chime every time you hit a good target. And it basically turns the whole court into a game zone that makes the whole thing a lot more fun and engaging. And so the whole thing is using data, because I'm using your placement, I'm using your speed, I'm using your rally length, I'm using your placement, your body placement, and so on and so forth. At the end of the game, you have a very simple summary that basically focuses you on improving your depth and consistency. And that's the only thing you wanna push people to understand. That's kind of whole pipeline, and that's what data does for us today. We're gonna continue. We have 2 games like that today. We're gonna continue in the next few months to add more and more of those.
Bobby, I'm sold. Like I want 3 of these things. I mean, but as a coach, you look at it, you see the kids, you say, okay, we're gonna play the games. And then my brain goes, all right, Michael, so what I'm going to need you to do next is I'm going to need you to be able to project onto the courts when the ball bounces. We get a cool little bing and a bing, like an augmented reality thing, whether I would have got to wear glasses or not. Like we've talked to the VR people, and we're thinking, how do we bring this onto a real tennis court? And it appears you've almost pretty much done that.
Yeah, of course. You don't have the visual because you're playing tennis, right? We
Right.
don't want to take that out. You're still playing tennis. But you do have the instant feedback. You have something that's working with you and making the whole thing more fun.
And as opposed to Bobby standing over the side going, short, that's the point, short, that's a short, no, longer, hit it deep. And the coach having to run the whole thing, it sounds like your camera, the machine does it for you, Bobby. I think we get to retire. We buy this and we don't have to do anything anymore, right?
Well, I to me, it opens up more things to yell at him about, which is great.
Absolutely.
I
On the contrary, I think you're not going to have to retire at all. It's just, I mean, it's give you another tool.
Yeah.
It's never going to replace a coach, and it's not meant to be.
And that's what the coaches want to hear too. Like the point of this is, I don't want to say ancillary because that makes it seem like it's extra on the side, but it really is of value to adding on and saying, hey, there is so much more you can do using this thing.
Sure. So it's training aid. It's a training tool. It is not a coach, and it's not meant to be. We are still convinced that the coach has a very, very important role in that pipeline. We're just bringing a new experience. We don't bring a coach.
So you're selling mostly to coaches. This isn't really a thing that a player is going to buy retail, or can I bring it with me to my league matches and use it for
No, absolutely not. So we're not selling to coaches only at all. I mean, we have coaching features, and those are the ones who are used. They're used even without coaches as well. I mean, those drills and stuff. I mean, lots of individual players are just hitting with each other and playing deeper games just because it's fun, and so that there is that part, and then there is the line coding part. A lot of players, individual players, are just playing matches and are and want the line to be called and want stats just to understand what they did after, without the whole interactive part. So we have that part as well. So we have your stats that you can access after the game. That gives you your percentages, your placement, how well you did. We have a new bunch of stats that's coming in 2-3 weeks, right? From now, I think 3 weeks from now, which is going to give you contextual stats about your match. Points won, break points, aces, winners. So a lot of those players want to have access to that. So we have kind of a diverse ways of using that product. If you're looking at the customer base we have today, we have around 50% of our customer base are individual players. Either they want they don't want the club to, they don't want to wait for the club to have it. They just want it. It's easy to transport. It's a little back in the backpack. And it's 20-second installation, so it's not a big deal. So they install it every time they go to the club. So lots of those. And then the second part is coaches and clubs. So we have clubs who are buying it. First thing they usually do while they're implementing that in their tournaments, in the meantime, the academy, which is in the club, is using it for coaching. And then on the weekends and stuff, they're using it for line calling for tournaments. And then we have lots of coaches as well who are not especially related to any kind of club. They're independent coach, and they're using that in whatever cohort they're teaching.
That's interesting. I let Bobby usually jump into the business side, but I'll kick Bobby off because I have that financial question, because this is not a cheap, this is not a low cost investment for something like that. So I'll admit I'm surprised you've got as many, we talk about 50% of actual just players that aren't using the coaching side, really finding value in the gamification and the line calling, and maybe the stats at the end if you're going to kind of self-analyze. Bobby, did you have the same opinion that I did there?
Oh, that's in our society today with these kids who grow up with a phone attached to their hand and instant gratification. You know, I always give them a hard time that their learning is motivated by their score. So this is going to provide, you know, how did I do, and constant feedback. You know, and again, in a kind of weird way, while separating you from out of having to make the call that I hit it deep enough. The machine is recording that for you. So it's got a inner game of tennis feel to it. Listen, disconnect. All you're supposed to be doing is concentrating on hitting the ball to a certain spot, because everything else is being taken care of for you, which is great. You know, so hopefully you can, you know, take that part of the body out of it and relax more and concentrate on really what you should be doing. But yes, always, I guess, financially is going to be the bottom line. And forgive me, what's the cost?
Right. So we sell those devices through our website. Price point is $2,000. Now the app is free. Everyone can download it. Everything I talked to you about, you know, which is, you know, line calling and the stats and videos that you can see on the court and download after, and 2 games that are already in there, and then you have another package of match stats that is coming in. Those are for free, and those are the free package, and those are always going to stay free. We're going to continue adding more stuff, which is advanced features, and they're going to be at some monthly fee, but there will always be that free package through the app. Now, it is, I mean, expensive is subjective, right? But we always had a trade-off between making something very cheap and then compromise on quality and compromise on performance, and then switching on the other side, which is, you know, it's going to start to be too expensive for whatever market we're aiming for. We're always trying to find the right balance and to optimize that. We're working with really state-of-the-art components, and that's very important for us. Part of the value of the device, which we believe part of the value of that device is that is its performance, and ease of use comes at a price as well, right? You need good components, you need a quality build, you need good computers inside in order to be able to process all that data and give instant feedback here, right? We call a line in between 0.3 to 0.5 seconds. And that's very important for us. to have that level of experience, and it comes at a price. And 2,000 is whatever compromise we've managed to do up to today.
That's a good answer, because it's always a tough one. It's like, why is it expensive? Well, because it's really good. Let's start with, hey, this is high-end stuff. Remember, Bobby, we were talking to one of the ball machine guys. He's like, everything is amazing inside of this thing. It isn't just a hamster on a wheel. Like, this is really high-end stuff, and they're a lot of fun to look at when I'm just trying to look at what it does, why it exists, and what it's going to do for tennis. And Michael, in the technology side of things, you obviously have looked at competitors. You're going to look at other technologies. Being an aerospace guy, you're not just, I'm sure you're not just stuck on tennis, even though you've turned the hobby into a business, which is awesome. What do you see in general, if you don't mind, if I zoom out from your product specifically a little bit, what do you see in general technology-wise that are we headed in the right direction? Are we doing the right things with virtual reality and augmented reality and magic line calling and gamification that you guys have, and the ball machines and the walls? It's no longer just a tennis coach and a player and a cone. We've got really cool stuff. So where do you give me a little bit of your vantage point there, if you don't mind?
I mean, I always think, and I'm continue to think that, technology, just tech for tech has no value, right? You always, if you're able to achieve something which, at the end makes your life better with tech, so, you hit it. If it doesn't do that, right? If you just provokes whatever addiction or bad long-term bad behavior or stuff like that, that's where it becomes useless, or not useless, even bad, right? And in tennis, it's the same. So tech for tech in tennis is not especially a good thing. There are a lot of companies out there that are doing great stuff, actually, on different levels. They have different products, actually, and different target markets, and everything is great until the point when you're actually taking away the essence of the sport, which is you want to go and keep the real value of tennis, which is sportsmanship, and you want to make and you want that physical effort to stay a physical effort. You don't want people, look at their phone while they're playing tennis. That's not the goal, right? So as long as you're keeping the real fundamentals of what it is play tennis, which is doing sports, exercise, getting better mentally, getting tougher mentally, working on your mental, being a good sport, having a good sportsmanship, learning to lose, and as long as you keep those values and you're only making the experience better around those values, there's no problem. And I think overall we do head in the right direction. I think overall what is being done. I mean, let's focus on tennis right now. I think the tech that is being made for tennis today overall, I mean, there are exceptions here and there, but I think overall are still keeping the game as a sport, right? And are still keeping or still trying to keep the good value. There is no, I don't see anything out there trying to deliberately, screw up the sport.
That'd be interesting, Bobby. We're gonna have to find the tech company that's out there trying to ruin tennis. Have we talked to anybody that we think that?
Or I think they try. I mean, they
right.
might think they help and they don't, but I don't see any of those.
Yeah, and everybody has
a couple of the racket manufacturers, I could argue,
okay,
tried to kill tennis with a few rackets they've made over the years. And the sad part is, even with the rackets, some of the, with the handle, with the tech built, it doesn't replace you hitting the ball.
It doesn't, and
it's the same thing with the line call. It's not going to absolve you of your responsibility. You're still going to have to do it. It's going to be it's nice to have, you have somebody on your shoulder helping and keeping you straight. And I just, it goes back to the more pleasurable the experience. I think you're seeing it in so many professional sports, and I'll use basketball. I'm a big basketball fan, and there's a lot of gripe with the NBA now because these guys scoring keeps going up. Nobody's playing defense anymore. But I think a lot has to do with it. Just offensively, these players are incredible, and
Right.
they're shooting at higher percentages. And when you've changed the game a little bit from a 3-point, 2-pointer to a 3-pointer, so gradually scores are going up, and then you bring in a higher aptitude, and all of a sudden these scores are seemingly a lot higher. But it's been a process, and I think you've already seen it in tennis. The evolution of the game. The players have gotten bigger, stronger, more athletic, more nutrition based. Now you're going to throw in even more reps in seemingly a more relaxed environment. I don't know how much how much better they can get, but I do believe all this leads to, before I go away permanently, the difference between the recreational player and the professional, I think, will be unbelievable, because the
Right.
professionals are going to, obviously they're going to be the ones who drive the tech, because they have the most to gain from it. So, they're
Yeah.
the sellers of it, and I think it's going to be extraordinary.
Absolutely. I mean, there is that, and I think um, the big question is at the end is adoption, right? Is how easy it is to 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 make people adopt it, right? Or to introduce a new tech in the market. If you have great stuff, but it's very, very hard to make people use, at the end you're not going to have a big impact, and the other way around. What we've been trying, for example, to do from the start is to kind of have the perfect combination between ease of use, portability, or standaloneness, the fact that you don't need an installation on the core, real-time performance, and affordability, and kind of try to combine and trade off all the time with those components. At the end of the day, I think that's what's going to drive that adoption. And it relates to what you're saying. I think that's the only way you're gonna first get the big guys to use it, but not only. You're actually gonna get both sides of the sport, even the high level pro and the recreational, to use the same kind of tech at the same time, and that's what's great, I think.
Well, how do we continue to not just improve who's already playing, but I think, Michael, what you're reminding us of is the values that come back to the technology should appeal to a broader audience. Can we bring in more tennis players to say, hey, this thing is great. It's why we love it. We've got many people that have our lives tied into tennis and racket sports in general. And how do we bring people in and say, hey guys, all the things you've heard before, I don't want my kid to play tennis because he's going to be out there and he's going to be bullied by the other kid into losing a match because of the line calls or whatever those things are, or the kids that just want to play video games. Well, hey, can we get them into augmented reality or virtual reality, and then augmented reality, and then all of a sudden the gamified baseline vision where they're hitting a real tennis ball on a real tennis court, but they're still playing a game. And then maybe they actually go outside and get some sun. Wouldn't that be
I
good?
mean, I hope they will. You kind of combine the two words. I mean, if I take that problem from the beginning, and I'm going to ask you one question. Why you're saying we're losing kids to tennis? Why do you think that happens? Why do you think specifically tennis is losing kids, for example?
Bobby, you or me?
You can go, and I'll agree or disagree, but I mean, I think it's the level of the difficulty of the sport has a lot to do with it.
Absolutely.
It's a highly skilled sport.
Yeah, and
I
I think we'd
agree.
all agree pickleball has a quicker upside.
Yeah,
You
Sure.
pick it up quicker, jumps right in, part of the popularity, especially with the high school players. But a little bit is the complicated nature of how it works. But I also think in the United States specifically, Michael, tennis is about the 7th or 8th most popular sport. It's not the first sport kids get into. Soccer's easy. Don't get me wrong. It's hard to be good, but soccer's easy. You go in, kick the ball around, kids have fun. You can do it sooner. Football's harder. So as the games get more popular, we have sports here that football, baseball, basketball. Those are your big three here. And then we've got a
Right.
few more the kids try. And then if it doesn't work out, maybe they come try tennis. But it
Right.
isn't as popular here in the US. So combined with Bobby, I would answer it's difficult. It's very difficult to be good, even competent at some level. And it's rarely the first sport that they try. So I think combined,
Right.
that's our answer.
Right. So on that difficulty part, that's where I'm gonna basically bounce off, because it is true. It is a big part of tennis, and I think that's one part of the beauty of the game, actually. But it's very hard to learn, right? Until
Yes.
you actually can hit a good winner, it's gonna you need to train for a few years, which is not the case in other sports, for example. And then now the question is, what do you? I mean, you're not going to change that. It's not gonna. You're not gonna make it easier to learn. What you can do is making the whole process more fun and engaging. And you can use data to do that. And that data part can be an integral part of your learning cycle and your competing cycle, because you're going to get data from your matches and line coding from your matches as well, which tremendously improves the experience of your matches. So by enhancing the whole experience easily, right? And that's the second part of it. To make it very easily accessible, 20-second installation on a course, you don't need installation. Price is subjective as well, but again, relatively accessible. I think that's where you kind of crack that problem.
I like
Well,
that.
I think, Shaun, we left out one component, and it's always based into the tennis, is that it's economically it's a high entry point. Let's put it that way. And you look at something that says $2,000. Oh well, look, you're continuing the process. But I look at it the opposite way, and I look at it in a long run from a club's perspective, from a coach's perspective, from a player's perspective. I mean, and it was bound to come up about age, but when I was 9 years old, it was a big deal. Then they took a Super 8 camera, movie of me playing tennis. That was a selling point of the academy, and just the be able to learn. And this is a long time ago. And now, even 10 years ago, where you had companies that would literally come out and say, well, we'll film your tennis match. Well, even to do a lot lesson, listen, I'm a big proponent, but if I'm going to get paid and then I have to pay somebody else, that lesson really just doubled, if not more, in price. Where the reality is, if you're a club and you're putting this on your teaching court and you can't make $2,000 in a year,
Right.
you have a lot of issues. So this
Yeah.
should not be a stumbling point at all. Take all that money that you're making off all these new pickleball players, enhance your tennis technology, and use that to the benefit of the sport to get people engaged. And it'll help the coach, where you're not going to be the one constantly having to say no. Listen, the
Right.
machine said you're aiming at a target. The goal was this. I didn't have to tell you you didn't hit it deep enough. The machine instantly did. So I just, to me, short-sighted. It's a big number, but long run, it just enhancing the experience alone should make more people stay. Because again, it's something you can do outside of the coach. A lot of people don't want to learn under the coach because, they're going to identify all the failures. So it's a good, like a cheat. I'm going to go out and sneak with my baseliner, and the baseliner is going to talk to me. I go back and tell the coach, and the coach is going to notice when you start hitting that target a lot more frequently that you are practicing. And if anything that does to get people back out on the court to practice is going to help on every level of the game.
Absolutely.
That's true. That's true. And it's the same thing for line coding, actually. I mean, there is kind of frightening stats. I don't know, from one country in Europe. I think it was France. I think there was in the high 30-40% of the kids dropping off that competitive tournaments or league they have there because of line coding process problems. And then, so it's not only hitting the balls in or out, it's actually you're solving an experience problem. They're having bad experience and trauma out of tennis that, at 12, 13 years old, because we have bullies on the court, and you always will have. That's the nature of people. And you're taking all that tension away, and it makes the whole sport more enjoyable.
Just makes it better. Absolutely. So, Michael, you said you've got something for our listeners. So I'd love to offer something. One of the things we like to do is say, hey, we got you a deal. And that makes our audience really happy because it makes us sound, we guys, if you're listening, we've strong-armed Michael and we said, give us the best deal you got. And he said, absolutely. Also, after that, I want to hit you with the King of Tennis question so we can find out what you would do if you were King of Tennis. So you said you got a deal for our audience. What you got for us today?
Yeah, so we're going to put a code. That's the way we do it on the website. There is a little place to put an affiliate code or a discount code just on top of the price. If you type ATP, which is Atlanta Tennis Podcast 200, you're gonna have $200 discount on it, and that's going to be on for 7 days after you broadcast.
$200 discount. Have you heard that, Bobby? I have a feeling I know where you're going next.
Yeah, my tennis committee.
Exactly. That's awesome, Michael. We appreciate that because this is the kind of thing we want to start seeing more of. You know, we talk to guys like Ian Westerman. He says, hey, we need video on the court, and why aren't people doing more of this? And sometimes it's cost prohibitive. Other times,
right.
You know what? It's just I don't really see the value. And we love talking to guys like you because it allows you, the expert in this, to really explain the value in that long form scenario where if somebody really wants to know, hey, you know what? If I'm going to spend $1,800, you're giving us $200 off. I appreciate that. If I'm going to spend $1,800 on this thing, I want to hear from the guy. I want him to look me in the eye and tell me that it's going to be worth it. If I'm at a club, can I make my money back? If I'm a traveling coach, can I make it worthwhile? And if I'm a player, oh man, how nice would it be not to have any more arguments about line calls? I think that's fantastic. And I think maybe it's not always the same where somebody says, hey, you know what? I've done my King of Tennis thing for the world where if I could just fix line calls forever. But I do want to ask Michael, as our last question always is, if you were King of Tennis and you could change anything or add, delete, take it away, put it in, whether it's technology or professional or recreational, whatever it is, anything in the world, is there anything you would do or change as King of Tennis?
I would. I mean, it's kind of vague, but what I would like to see is official organization embracing technology more easily. I think that would push again, you know, engagement, fun, bring more people who are. It's always a really long process to get organization on board, and I think that's why I would try to push, making that process a little faster.
And that sounds self-serving, but I know from a
it's not.
Right.
I mean,
so that's what I want you to go.
It is a bit, you know.
Go further, because if you have USDA says we're going technology and we choose baseline vision, obviously that comes across as self-serving. But I know from a values point of view, that's not what you mean.
No, I mean, because that was the goal at the beginning, even before we founded the company. So it's not a short-term kind of choose baseline thing, even though it would be great. But it's not exactly that. It's really, I mean, the whole game, the whole name of the game was at the beginning, making the whole thing better, making tennis more fair, more engaging, more fun, and I think that's the official organization has a big role to play in making tennis more fair, fun, and engaging.
There we go. Fair, fun, and engaging, Bobby. Write that down. Michael's already written down, may the courts be with you. Bobby, we got to remember.
Fair, fun, engaging. I know that's going to be
fair, fun, and engaging. That's the new tagline. Michael,
and if we could just find that organization, there's
right. If we knew, you know, in the United States, if there was a tennis association that might be interested in doing that.
Actually, I mean, it's talking about, you know, the US. I think USDA is doing a lot right now. I mean, I think they're really putting effort into trying to make that faster and better. That's one good thing.
How many do you have at Lake Nona right now?
How many? Sorry, how many?
How
what?
many baseliners do you have at Lake Nona right now in Orlando, the USDA headquarters?
I'm.
Well, what I'm
I
saying, well,
didn't get the
that'll be
question.
the key to me when they adapt it and start using it. Then I'll be a bigger fan because
All
they
right,
have a
that
headquarters that
right.
this is
That's
made for. That
right.
you could be putting these up and it just enhanced the experience of coming to Lake Nona.
You know,
That
I was there 3 weeks ago actually
okay, good.
in Orlando, and we
Yes,
have I think 2 devices on the way to them
fantastic.
Nice.
right now. So they're putting a lot of effort into
Well, that's what I
in-
want to hear. That's exactly what I was alluding to. I mean, you have the perfect facility that they're spending all this money and they're not getting the return that they wanted. Well,
right.
what else can we do to make it where people look at this as, why do I want to go to Lake Nona? I mean, there's a lot of I mean, Atlanta is incredible the amount of tennis, but you even have all the beach getaways that you can draw 6 hours away, and Lake Nona is probably closer to 8. So a lot of our tennis players don't, that's a Disney trip. That's not a tennis trip. So
Right.
what is Lake Nona doing to get you to go to Disney and go to Lake Nona rather than go to Sandestin or to Vandermeer or where, Kia, wherever you're going? And, again, they have the resources where every bell and whistle that is available to tennis should be.
Right.
And say, look, lead by example. Like you said, I want to go use it.
Actually
Let me
they
go use
did.
it and then see and say, oh yeah, I have to have this.
Right. They actually did it. I mean, a few years ago, they had a tech solution on lots of courses there. I know they are actively always looking for new stuff. I mean, they're specifically doing a cool job. I was specifically talking about them. There's a lot of organization out there. It's a very segmented tennis worldwide, actually.
Sure.
If you look at an ITF level, or even if you're looking inside of Europe, it's very fragmented, and it sometimes make things a little bit more complicated to get around to, and that's the I was talking more generally. I think specifically for the Orlando campus, I think they're doing a good job there into looking for new stuff.
And with the USTA, I think where Bobby was going with that is we're very much we'll believe it when we see it kind of scenario with the USTA. And yeah, that would be cool. And other than what I'm going to do with you, Michael, is I'm going to follow up, because if you're going to get those organizations to embrace technology better, what I want to do is follow up. And the next time I ask you the question, I want you to tell me how we're going to get them to do that. Because if we can figure that out,
Yeah.
then we're getting something. Michael, I really appreciate your time. This has been fantastic. We will always follow up. I will put all the information in the show notes and the descriptions, and we'll send it out to make sure everybody knows their code ATP200 to get $200 off. And we'll see how many Baseline Vision machines we can get in the Atlanta area. We appreciate it. Thank you so much, Michael. I appreciate your time.
Great. Nice meeting you guys. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.